LL Cool J, Mr. Smith. It's been a while. Hello and welcome to It's Been a While. I am Tillman, the only guy on the internet that doesn't know everything. This is a series where I talk about albums that I loved as a kid, but for whatever reason I stopped listening to them. And today we're talking about Mr. Smith by LL Cool J. Before I continue, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I release a new video. And leave a comment if you feel so inclined. Say whatever you want. If I don't like it, I'll just delete it. Okay, back to Mr. Smith. If I were to search my parents' garage, I would probably be able to find the original pressing of LL Cool J's debut album, Radio. Aside from Run DMC, LL Cool J was pretty much my introduction to what rap music was. But even though I loved that album, it still felt like my big brother's music. When you're a kid, you pretty much listen to what other people tell you is good and you just accept it. I did hear Bigger and Deffer, Walking with a Panther, and Mama Said Knock You Out, and I like those albums too. Well, I like two of them. The first album that LL Cool J released that I was old enough to buy with my own money was 14 Shots to the Dome. Not a great album to start out with, but at least by that age I knew why it wasn't great. 2 years later came Mr. Smith, and by this time LL Cool J had been in the game for 10 years, which was unheard of for a rapper. He had gotten to the point where we had to call him Mr. I remember this album was a return to form after 14 Shots to the Dome underperformed. And by underperform, I mean it only went platinum one time. This album cover was also kind of a big deal because LL is famous for never taking off his hat. I know technically he's wearing a visor, but this was the first time we got to see LL's now famous bald head. I look at the track list for this album and I recognize most of the songs and I remember liking at least half of them. So let's see if I'm right. The first song we hear is Make It Hot. Every few years, LL changes producers, and on this album, he moved away from Marley Marl and went with Trackmasters, who are famous for taking hits from the 80s and making them sound so crazy. Here they used DeBarge's biggest hit, I Like It. Most rappers would have taken this beat and made a love song, but L is not like most rappers. Besides, there's plenty of time for that later. At any rate, this was a nice mellow start to the album. Next we have Hip Hop, which is a love song to hip hop. This song could have easily been a trip down memory lane, seeing as he's been a fixture in hip hop since it started getting noticed outside of New York. Instead, he approaches it purely as a fan from the outside looking in. The song is broken down into 3 parts. In the first verse, he references the artists that inspired him, like Sugar Hill Gang, Fatback Band, and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. In the second verse, he references his peers like Big Daddy Kane, EPMD, and Cool G Rap. In the third verse, he references the new artists like Mobb Deep, Snoop Doggy Dogg, and Nas Escobar. And as someone who loves hip hop, it's kind of hard to find something to not like about the song. He's definitely preaching to the choir. Hey Lover was the first single from the album, and it's pretty much the reason this album went double platinum. LL won his second Grammy for this song, but with this combination of talent, it's kind of hard to miss. I mean, you have Trackmasters using a Michael Jackson sample, Boyz II Men singing the hook fresh off the success of I'll Make Love to You. You have a music video directed by Hype Williams with Jillian Waters as the love interest, and LL Cool J rapping about the thing he raps about the best. If you can't make a hit song with that combination, you might want to hang it up. LL Cool J definitely knocks it out the park with this one. Having said that, if the person singing this song had looked less like LL Cool J and more like Steve Buscemi, this music video would have been the first scene in a horror movie. Also, Jillian Waters is pretty infantilized in the video. Just saying. Doing It is the second single from the album, and it's basically the more adult version of Hey Lover if both parties were involved in being infatuated. The song is basically a remake of the song Wild Thing by LaShawn, released in 1988, which uses the same Grace Jones sample. LaShawn didn't appear in the video for Doing It because she was pregnant at the time, and because of that, I didn't know what she looked like until years later when Al Gore invented the internet. She never capitalized on the success of the song, which is a shame because she definitely delivered. On the song, I mean. And I guess in real life too. Life As, produced by Easy Mo Bee, switches things up with a more street sound. Unfortunately, LL does this thing where he uses nonsense words and phrases and tries to sell them with a hardcore delivery. It's the same thing that made 14 Shots kind of hard to get through. Because of that, this song is mostly filler. And in just in case you think I'm being too hard on this song, here's a sample of the lyrics. Triggity, sky high like a kite, God diggity, every other cloud's blue. Puff on her, yeah, puff on her, bring it on, off on, baby 1, 2. I Shot You is proof that Trackmasters are capable of making a street banger. This track, and the track for doing it, was originally meant for the Notorious B.I.G., and it would have been amazing to hear what he would have done over this one in particular. Some people say that this was a response to Who Shot You, and although I can't find anywhere where LL responds to this directly, it does seem to have some validity. The original version of Who Shot You was supposed to feature Biggie, Keith Murray, and LL Cool J. You can hear parts of this song on Mary J. Blige's album My Life on the aptly titled K. Murray interlude. LL never recorded his verse, possibly because of a less than fruitful business deal between him and Puff. And allegedly, because of that, LL recorded I Shot You. I mean, think about it. LL could have gotten anyone on the hook. I don't think it's a coincidence that he got Keith Murray. And while I'm here, I might as well talk about the remix that features Keith Murray, Prodigy, Fat Joe, and Foxy Brown. This remix is notable for a few reasons. For starters, Keith Murray and Prodigy rhyme back to back even though they were beefing at the time. Prodigy even directly disses Murray in his verse, and they edited it out of the album version and completely removed it from the video. Prodigy is also the first person to mention the Illuminati in a rap song. Keith Murray had to defend himself against Tupac because Tupac thought that this song was about him because, of course he did. Fat Joe got on the song because he just happened to be in the studio working on his own album when his manager Chris Lighty asked him to hop on the track. Prodigy also happened to just be in the studio. Another thing is that this song happens to be the debut of Foxy Brown. The Trackmasters brought her in without telling LL. When LL first heard her, he assumed it was a prepubescent boy and not a female rapper, which shows you where we were in 1995. Finally, we have LL's verse, which is more scathing than the 3 verses on the original song combined. This is just proof that LL is at his best when he's facing an actual opponent. Things smooth back out with the track Mr. Smith. It's pretty nondescript considering it's the title track, but the song is still pretty good. No Airplay is pretty much the same thing as Mr. Smith, but over a boom bap beat produced by Chad Elliott. It's meant to sound like an unmixed radio freestyle that was recorded on the fly. Whether that's the case or not is anybody's guess. For some reason the song is edited, but he still uses the 3-letter F word, which lets you know where we were in 1995. The album version of Loungin' featuring Terry and Monica was produced by Rashad Smith, aka Tumblin' Dice, and is completely different than the single version. In fact, it's a completely different song. Both songs are about LL trying and successfully getting with a woman, but the similarities pretty much end there. The video version is produced by the Trackmasters, it's more upbeat, the hook is sung by Total, and the concept is less wholesome. In short, the album version sounds like a cheap knockoff of the video version. On Hollis to Hollywood, LL is making fun of rappers for using too many metaphors in their raps, which is weird coming from a guy that wrote pink cookies in a plastic bag being crushed by buildings. I actually like this song because it shows LL doing something a little different. Yes, he's still talking about women, but at least he's doing it in a creative way. God Bless is another Tumbling Dice production that's mostly filler. I'm starting to notice 2 things about this album. 1, my favorite songs on this album tend to be Trackmaster productions. And 2, I'm starting to understand why rap songs are so much shorter than they used to be. Practically all the songs on this album follow the same format. Talking intro, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, talking outro. It's been forever since I've heard a bridge on a rap song, and I don't miss it. Got the Drop on 'Em is actually a pretty great song, but I feel cheated that I had to wade through so much to get to it. This album sounds pretty much the way I remember it. There are some really great songs and a handful of songs that could have been left out. It's not that they were bad songs, it's just that there are only so many ways you can tell a person that you're a better rapper than another rapper. But LL was one of the first rappers that had to defend themselves against not just younger rappers, but also a younger audience. And the fact that he remained relevant is proof that he really is bad. So when's the last time you heard Mr. Smith? Are you still bumping it to this day? I'm going to keep talking about albums until I run out. Until then, I am Free Tillman, the only guy on the internet that doesn't know everything.